The first card I'm going to do today is this one, and I'm going to do it in two parts. So the first part I'll just do the background. It uses the sailing set CS278D Sailing, which is a fabulous set designed by Sharon File. I love it because it's got all sorts of sailing vessels in there, large yachts, small, a trawler, yeah, really brilliant, waves, seagulls. It's all at different angles, so we can squeeze as much in as we possibly can, and we've certainly done that. So when I first picked up this set, I decided I wanted to get straight into it. So I wanted to do some background papers. Now I've used my jelly plate, but normally I would use acrylic paints. But if I'm using acrylic paints, I really get into it and it takes quite a bit of time. So I wanted to do something really quickly. So for this I've used oxides, and it's quite a quick, easy way of creating a big pile of background papers that you can work on. So going back to the beginning, what we're going to need is a white base card 150mm square, a blue panel 125mm square, and a smaller blue panel 70mm square. I've used the piece of mount board, and the piece of mount board is 65mm square. Now if you haven't got mount board, you can use really thick card, because we're going to emboss on it. If it's thin card or paper, it would warp and it would crack when you were doing the embossing. But if you haven't got mount board or thick card, then you could just miss out the embossing and you'd still have a lovely card. The other thing that you're going to need is a piece of copy paper. So I'm using a jelly plate, and my jelly plate is 130mm. So I've cut the copy paper a bit bigger at 140mm. But when it's cut down for use, it's going to be 120mm, but I want it bigger than my jelly plate to work on. So here we go. I'm using faded jeans and tumbled glass oxide. I've got my brayer, I've got my jelly plate, and I've got a pile of paper. So I'm just going to put my distress oxides on. So this one's the faded jeans. Much or as little as you like. Use as many colours as you like. It's you know, while you're doing it, you might just as well do a huge pile of paper, and then you've got plenty to work on. Let's have a little bit more of the blue there. Okay, so using my brayer, just going backwards and forwards until it merges in. Okay, that will do nicely. And then I'm just going to put my piece of paper over the top, press it down. Doesn't have to be perfect, it is just for a background, just to work on. And there's my first pull. I could do a second pull on that, and that will be a lot lighter, like so. But you know, that's it. You just build up lots of different layers. If you really don't like something, then you can turn it over and work on the back as well. Just going to ink again, and you want to, when you're using your brayer, you want to carry on until you're not seeing any of these lines. It can be you get a completely different effect than using acrylics, but it is a nice quick way of working, and just creating a sort of random background. There we go. This time what I'm going to do, I'm going to turn this round so that I've got the faded jeans at the bottom, and I've got a hair on there. I'm not even going to bother to remove that. It's an occupational hazard in this house. We have a dog whose mum and dad were cockapoos, so he doesn't molt, but the cat makes up for it. The cat's 19 and we get an occasional hair here and there. So what I'm doing here, I'm just going over the stencil like that, and that's what I'm going to get. I would still work on that, would still do something with that later, but then when I take this off and do a second pull, and what I'm going to use is the lighter one that we did just a moment ago, and I'm just going to put that in place. I can see that ink has moved there, but I'm not going to worry too much about it. I'm just going to go in. If I didn't like it, I could just brayer and start again, but I'm just going over with the lighter one, and I'm going to get a completely different effect from the stencil. Okay, and as I say, it's just the background to work on. Again, this one, I would do something else with this, so we'll just go back in with that one. It's not going to be much, it's the second print, so it won't be very dark, but this is what I'm saying, you just carry on until you've got something that you like. There we are. Okay, so you can see how it works. Right, so I'm going to put that to one side. Just a couple of things there. So this is how I've used some of these. You can see I've got a big pile of bits. Some really quite light, but they're a basis on which to work. That one, I just cleaned my jelly plates. I've got quite a watery look. This one, I actually sponged through the template, the stencil, and you can see you've got quite a strong look. Now if you're sponging through the stencil, obviously you've still got that ink on there anyway, so even without re-inking I've got a pattern. So this one I stamped onto the jelly plate with the starfish from the seagull set, and so it's left another image. So you get the idea, just quite random, but a nice pile of stuff, so that when I was working on this set, I just picked up the next one and I could carry on working quite easily. Right, so here's one that I've cut down to the right size. I'm using the lighter tumble glass bit at the top. I'm using my faded jeans, and I'm just going to use the stamps from the set to create a quick background. Now, what I quite like to do, I like to know where I'm going with it, so just move that to one side, find a pencil, there is one here somewhere. So this is the size of my mount board, and so that's going to go on there. Remember, the blue trim will be slightly larger, so that just gives me a guideline really of where the mount board is going to be, so I don't need to stamp the whole bit. So I'm just randomly stamping. It doesn't all have to be in the frame. Each one will be slightly different, and so just build it up. Let's find a nice big stamp. We'll have that one. So I'll do that one at the top there. Doesn't matter if they overlap at the bottom, because that bit's not going to be seen. And I'll do the same at the bottom, fill up a space nice and quickly, and just fill in the little bits. You can see how quick it is. There we go. And one of my favourite stamps here. Love this little seagull on the boy, and There's another little boy too. Doesn't matter if, you know, they're half off the page. And because I like that seagull, we just put him in there as well. Okay, job done. So once the blue panel is over the top, you're going to get something like that. Okay, so I'm going to stop in a moment or two, but just another quick colourways I did at the same time, because at the time I was using the seagull set as well, and so I just did tumbled glass and fossilized amber, and then I put a bit of spice marmalade over the top, so you can see there's the lighter one. That one was when I was cleaning the brayer and I was cleaning the jelly plate, and I did them onto paper, and I actually quite like the effect. It would make a good background. And there's the basis for the card that I did with the seagulls, because I was working with the two together. And so really just a quick easy way of building a layer of cards, and then you can get on with your stamping.